So we are here in the lovely Morden Hall Park. This, I suppose, is quite a special place to me personally, because I spent a lot of lockdown when I lived in Collier's Wood, sort of wandering around here, and it was pretty busy, but not as busy as it could have been. I think it's one of those sort of secret corners that you don't really know about. Even a lot of South Londoners don't really know about this area. So yeah, it's definitely pretty special to me. But we're with Ranger Elly Platt.
London has been given the first ever national park city status.
London, the world's first national park city.
Come and enjoy, because life's too short, really and truly.
And London, wow, what an amazing city.
So, greener,
healthier,
and wilder.
So I'm a costume maker by profession. I was furloughed for 6 months during the pandemic, and that's when I really started to get to know my local area sort of really well. I was doing my daily walk along the River Wandle, which is an amazing rare chalk stream habitat, so one of only about 200 in the world, and it flows from Carshalton and Croydon out into the Thames at Wandsworth. There's also the wonderful Wandle Trail, which runs alongside the river. So it's like a 12-mile walking path. Obviously couldn't do all of it at the start of lockdown, but I was just doing my little local section, really getting to know the river. And in my spare time, I also started doing some sort of research about the river and found out it had this amazing history as a site of textile production. So it's been used for different types of textile production for about 500 years. There have been dye mills, calico bleaching. Two really famous names in the British textile industry have had print works on the Wandle, so William Morris and Liberties.
William Morris, they do the cool, well, I feel like wallpaper and curtains as well. They're kind of really florally.
Yeah, so they're still really popular today. The sort of the William Morris name has now been licensed to sort of probably hundreds or even thousands of products. Mm-hmm. But William Morris's kind of original sort of plan with his textile, what almost sort of became like a textile empire, was that he wanted to push back against what had become quite a kind of chemical-centric business. So new chemical dyes had been discovered in the 1850s. And although this meant that people could have amazing colours very cheaply, a lot of the dyes were causing problems not only in the environment, but also to people themselves. A lot of the dyes weren't kind of set in the fabric, and they could cause, irritation or sometimes like really serious skin problems. And some of the things being used were actually really poisonous, like arsenic was used to make green. So arsenic wallpapers, arsenic clothes. So it was, yeah.
Green's such a natural colour. You think, it must come from a natural place.
Absolutely. Green is one of the hardest colours to get naturally, surprisingly enough. So William Morris really wanted to push back against that and use what he saw as the kind of really traditional sort of natural methods. So going back to using dyes like woad and weld, which would have been used in Britain sort of before the Industrial Revolution. And he actually created a fabric called Wandle, which he described as a fabric to honour our helpful stream, which I thought was really sweet. Yeah, it's quite a garish pattern. You could get it in more muted colours, but the original Wandle colour is quite, there's a lot going on in it.
what like some of the main colours?
So there's a green background of sort of flowers kind of flowing in a direction, but some of the stems are kind of white and red, almost like a barber's pole.
Oh, wow.
So there's, there's quite a lot of interest, shall we say. some bold colour and pattern choices.
There's so much to learn, and I've definitely absorbed so much information, so much fascinating information from you and, all the work that you do here. But specifically today, we're at Morden Hall Park. So why are we here?
Yeah, so I've been taking some of my sort of inspiration from the Wandle, which has really inspired my own textile practice. I've been looking at the things that make up the chalk stream habitat. So it's a rare habitat because it has specific things that it needs to thrive. So it has to have a gravelly, pebbly riverbed and a fast flow of water. So the fast flow of the clear water is washing away any silt that could get stuck on the pebbles, which is what happens when you have a slower, kind of more sluggish flow of water. And the pebbles need to be clean because the types of waterweed that grow in a chalk stream, like water crowfoot and starwort, they actually have a root system that needs to grab onto the pebbles and sort of hold tight to the pebbles while the waterweed then flows in the current. If the pebbles are silted up, they're too slimy and slippery for the waterweed to latch onto, so you can't get this sort of very basic kind of oxygenating weed in the habitat, which means that nothing else can really live in there. And then obviously the kind of clear gravel bed means that there's lots of little nooks and crannies for things to hide. The waterweed is obviously oxygenating the water. It's also providing a habitat for small creatures to hide, like small kind of fish fry, different types of invertebrates. And then those small creatures are providing food for large creatures, like larger species of fish. And then obviously different kind of wading birds or ducks, kind of mallards, water birds, that sort of thing. So I wanted to kind of really introduce the group of young people who I was going to be running the workshop with to these sort of different habitats. But I wanted to do it through some kind of quite sort of experimental textile work. So we were going to look at these 4 different elements: the gravel waterbed, the waterweed, invertebrates, so specifically a caddisfly, because I find the cased caddisfly larvae quite sort of unique and intriguing.
I feel like
and
I've
then
seen that in your artwork as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love a caddisfly. I find them really, really fascinating. Like they've built themselves a little outfit. I mean, it's not an outfit. It's a, it's an exoskeleton, but really it's an outfit. It's a funky outfit. So so love a caddisfly larvae. And then the other sort of larger creature we were going to look at was sort of different species of fish. So I wanted to make the work as kind of sustainable as possible. So I've used reclaimed fabrics, reclaimed materials for the project. So things from my own fabric stash, Tooting scrap store was brilliant. I found some great things in there as well. Members of the public very kindly donated fabrics to the National Trust for us to use for the project. So I was able to use some of those donations as well, which was great.
So it feels like a lot of kind of prep work had to go into making this happen.
Yeah, so we had 6 sort of quite intense days of actually working on the project. So I wanted to come along with everything pre-prepped, so the young people had as much time as they needed for actual sewing. The first day after we did our initial introductions, I had 8 young people. The youngest was 15, the oldest was 23. So some of them were still in education, some of them were just leaving uni and trying to figure out their next steps, and also kind of trying to find community. I think a lot of them, maybe they didn't have a sort of settled job or a settled place to live. And I think there was kind of an element of loneliness, and they wanted to do a week's project where they got to just hang out with people and learn a new skill, have a nice time, have some great conversations. So the first day I took them for a walk around Morden Hall Park to kind of introduce them to the park. And we were so lucky because the weather was absolutely gorgeous. It was a beautiful sunny day. All the demoiselles, the damselflies were out. The river looked beautiful. So I felt like the young people were really connecting to the park and each other, which was really lovely, before we got into the classroom and really started creating.
And are they local? Like, how did they find out about this, or how did you promote it?
So the National Trust employed me to run the workshop, but the workshop was free for the young people. So the National Trust have been promoting it as part of the work that they do with young people at Morden Hall Park.
Yeah.
So they've promoted it through sort of various different organisations. I think they promoted it through like University of the Arts London, and as well as kind of more locally through different secondary schools and sixth forms to get young people to sign up. So it was just on a first come, first served basis. The young people didn't need any skills other than the fact that they could thread a needle and do a running stitch, because it was quite a fast paced workshop. I wanted them to kind of produce quite a lot of work in a fairly short space of time. I wanted them to be confident enough sewers that they could kind of really use their brains to kind of come up with something beautiful rather than worrying about the actual sort of basic sewing skills. Honestly, being able to do a running stitch is enough to be able to really create something amazing. Actually, it's just using your imagination and having a lot of inspiration around you as well. And I think actually working in one of the historic buildings at Morden Hall Park, we were in the beautiful Snuff Mill building with a classroom that backs onto the river. So I was able to open up the windows and allow just the sound of the river. So instead of having, podcasts or music, we had the sort of ambient noise of the river and wonderful conversation as our kind of inspiration during the day.
Because the mill is quite a historical building. It's one of hundreds of mills, like you said. So you said this mill was used for snuff, and what other kind of...
Yeah, so at its busiest, which I think was probably the late 18th century, the Wandle was running about 90 mills. And these mills could be milling anything from gunpowder to flour. There were various different dye mills. Snuff was obviously like a really popular product. It's a sort of tobacco product that has since fallen out of favour. But yeah, very popular in kind of 18th and 19th century Britain. So yeah, this building was originally a snuff mill. I don't know if it's been used as anything sort of either side of its life as a snuff mill, because I know some of the mills on the Wandle have had sort of fairly storied lives as mill buildings that did sort of several different types of milling. But unfortunately, the snuff mill doesn't have any of its original sort of mechanisms in there anymore. It does have a water wheel, which sadly isn't running at the moment.
Oh, okay.
But they've kept a couple of the rooms, like the kiln room, which was used for drying out the snuff, the sort of tobacco. I think it's like a tobacco powder. So the kiln room is now the National Trust's dedicated space for art exhibitions put on by young people. So they have a rotating series of exhibitions involving local schools, local groups for young people, and these young people get a chance to exhibit their work with the National Trust.
Very cool. Very nice. All right, well, I feel like we should maybe wander in and have a look.
Absolutely, let's go and have a look.
Shall I point?
Oh yeah, that's one of the old mill wheels. There we are, Snuff Mill, Children and Young People Hub. We spent 5 days creating the artwork, and then the last day was sort of last minute finishing off and helping the young people to kind of curate the exhibition. So deciding where they wanted the artwork to be placed sort of within the gallery space. I provided a backdrop just for all the individual embroidery hoops to be placed on, but all the choice of placement is purely down to the young people. I just let them kind of, choose what they wanted the exhibition to look like.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's go in. So we're walking in now. So this is the exhibition. So this is all the work that all of your students were beavering away at last week. And wow, you can see these really intricate designs. So you said you provided the what do you call them?
Yeah, so I provided embroidery hoops for each artist. So each artist had 4 embroidery hoops to work with. The embroidery hoops were the only thing that were purchased new for this exhibition. Everything else is sort of found or upcycled fabric. So yeah, each of the young people had a day essentially to work on each of the embroidery hoops. So for the pebble hoops, we spent the end of the first day making marbled fabric. And then the second day we spent making the pebbles for those hoops to kind of represent the gravel bed of the river. And then the third day we had an amazing day making waterweed. I think that really got everyone...
That's these dangly bits.
Yeah. So I think that really got everyone feeling quite sort of free and like comfortable with the materials.
Yeah.
We had a brilliant time making the caddisfly larvae. So all of the caddisfly cases have been made out of different beads.
Yeah.
The National Trust had a wonderful collection of sort of long wooden beads, possibly like from one of those old those sort of beaded car seats, which actually looked a lot like the caddisflies we found in the Wandle. Both myself and Isabelle, who was my assistant from the National Trust for the week, we've both done riverfly monitoring training. So we went out first thing in the morning and did a kick sample in the River Wandle and collected some caddisfly larvae for the group to have a look at. So we had caddisfly larvae in a tray with some, sort of oxygen pumps and things and some waterweed for the day. But I think that really kind of, got the young people kind of really looking at them closely. We had some big magnifying glasses and things so they could really see the creatures kind of up close and really get an idea of what they were like, because they're quite fascinating invertebrates. And I think for people who are maybe, they think, oh, I quite like a butterfly, but but I definitely don't like a spider or other things, that they might call creepy crawlies. I feel like, well, a caddisfly larvae is quite, it's quite a kind of glamorous little creature. It could, maybe kind of turn the tide on someone who's a bit unsure about invertebrates. They start to think, oh, actually, they're really fascinating. Yeah. And they're just different creatures that move very differently from mammals. Yeah. So there's nothing to be afraid of.
We've got some old bubble wrap. We've got all sorts of different bits of textiles here. That looks like the stuffing of one of those really kind of cheap sofas.
So that foam is actually it's that sort of reconstituted upholstery foam, which I bought in bulk several years ago off eBay. Someone was getting rid of sort of an old upholstery project. And I'd actually bought that to make something in the past and had a lot of it left over. So that's what's inside all of the pebbles. So to make them sort of really lightweight artworks, the pebbles are marbled fabric gathered over these sort of blobs of upholstery foam. So they've got quite sort of organic shapes.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. And so you can see the marbling here, the marbling effect. It's amazing.
They did a really, really excellent job with the marbling. I think that got them sort of feeling kind of quite free with the materials. They got really sort of experimental and wanted to try loads of different things. I presented them with fairly sort of straightforward samples of what I thought, someone could realistically achieve in 4 hours. And of course, they all wanted to go above and beyond that. They had such ambitious ideas for what they wanted to create. And I think they've all done so well, because really 4 hours, if you're doing a piece of embroidered work, 4 hours is a really, really short space of time.
Yeah. All these fantastic sort of jewelled caddisflies, because I've seen a lot of your caddisfly artwork with the jewels before, like you had at the Carshalton Arts Fair. So this is almost at a bigger scale, right? But it's amazing. You can just get these lovely jewelled bits and gems and put them together to get that caddisfly effect. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I was sort of imagining, what would a caddisfly make its case out of if it had access to sort of much more man-made materials. Somebody actually did a project with caddisfly larvae back in the early 2010s. I don't know how ethical it was, but they took the caddisfly larvae out of their sort of natural cases and put them in a tank with things like pearls and gold leaf. And they made these sort of, I guess, kind of fine jewellery caddisfly cases.
Well, the caddisfly made them themselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know how ethical it is to remove the caddisfly from their natural habitat like that, but that was sort of possibly where some of the sort of thinking behind the jewels and things, or in an urban river, where what does a caddisfly pick up? Do they just pick up little bits of stone and sticks, or are they also picking up bits of microplastics, bits of like human detritus, things like that? So things that are probably a lot less glamorous than pearls and 24 karat gold.
I feel like it's kind of coming back to me now. This pebble design, I feel like it's a motif that has come through in some of your own.
So the reason that I actually had originally bought the great big pile of upholstery foam was I made about 600 of these pebbles for my wearable work of art, Wandle versus the Wet Wipes.
Oh, wow.
So originally that was kind of where the pebble idea came from. Wandle versus the Wet Wipes is a piece of wearable art. It's almost like a costume. And the idea behind it was the spirit of the River Wandle, so the kind of beautiful waterweed and the pebbles. And then the bottom half of the dress is a sort of skirt made from wet wipes, made from plastic sacks. So the Wandle is sort of gradually being, kind of covered in this sort of mat of horrible wet wipes. And a wonderful friend of mine wore it and posed for sort of incredible kind of angry photos.
I think it had quite a long train, right?
Yeah, it's got quite a long train of the sort of wet wipes made out of plastic sacks. Every now and then people ask me if they really are wet wipes, which, I mean, gross.
Yeah, that must be
they are. I draw the line at using biohazards in my work. I try to use like some found objects, but a wet wipe is a found object too far.
Yeah, you don't know where it's been.
Well, you do know where it's been. That's the problem.
Hazard guess, especially at festivals. But yeah, that's amazing. So you can see that on your Instagram page.
Yeah.
Take It Up, Wear It Out.
Absolutely, yeah.
And do you have a website as well?
I do, yes. It's takeitoupwearitout.co.uk.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
So these are also amazing. So it's quite easy to get here, isn't it? So I used to live in Colliers Wood, so it's maybe like a 10-minute walk from Colliers Wood, quite close to Morden.
Yes, you've got
Station.
the bottom of the Northern Line, Morden train station, and you literally just sort of walk kind of almost straight across the main road, and then you're here at Morden Hall Park. It's probably like a lesser known National Trust property because it doesn't have, the big house, the big kind of collection. But I think it's a real kind of gem of a place for local people. I think local people have a real attachment to it. Yeah. And it was actually left to sort of local people by the original landowner with a sort of proviso that the gates would never be locked. So aside from the kind of core buildings in the section where we're standing now, the main park itself is open kind of 24/7.
Amazing. I actually didn't realise that. Didn't know I could have come here at 1 a.m.
You could have done for your lockdown walk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Before the trails get too busy. So what's going to happen to all of this art afterwards? Go back to the students?
Yeah, so it will go back to the students. I really wanted the students to have something they could take away with them at the end of it. And I also wanted to have for them to have something that would be a sort of coherent piece of work that they could possibly show as like part of a portfolio, which is why I got everyone to do the work in the individual embroidery hoops. So each person has 4 embroidery hoops of the pebbles, the waterweed, the caddisfly larvae, and a fish. Some people have kind of really combined all 4 elements into kind of different hoops, whereas other people have chosen to just kind of keep the hoops kind of quite specific. But I think it really shows a real kind of range of talent. There are people who've worked very expressively. There are people who've worked kind of very neatly and precisely. And I think, it's just a really, really, really beautiful body of work and a really impressive amount of work that the young people did in, just 5 days' time.
And what do you hope that those young people come away with? Obviously, art and kind of an expanded portfolio, but in terms of kind of the relationship to London's waterways and obviously learning about everything that lives in the Wandle, what do you hope from a nature and National Park City perspective they come away?
Yeah, I really hope they've kind of learnt a bit more about a chalk stream habitat in a way that perhaps somebody who isn't a geographer or a geologist or a biologist, you might think, I'm not going to be able to connect with a kind of really in-depth lecture about, invertebrates on the Wandle because I don't understand the scientific names or something like that, or, that's just not my area of interest. But by kind of combining sort of community artwork with kind of some learning about the kind of biodiversity of the Wandle and then actually being able to show them kind of examples of the creatures and the habitat that we've been looking at, I think that's kind of hopefully helped them to engage with habitats in a different way. Like maybe when they're walking somewhere, they'll be looking to sort of discover the different elements that make up a habitat. Now they've got that idea in their mind that they're thinking not just that's a tree, that's a flower, that's an insect, but thinking about how all of those things combine together to make up an ecosystem.
Yeah, and inspire more artwork in kind of a similar vein. I can imagine someone's work taking a different direction off the back of this for the better, because I love this kind of art. There's all sorts of different channels and ways to express kind of the impacts on nature and climate causes, and I think this is a really good way of doing it. So if at least one of these artists comes out and their portfolio's gone in a different direction, like that would be really cool.
Absolutely, yeah. I hope it's helped them to kind of feel like they can work quite expressively, like quite quickly and expressively, that they don't have to be held back. I think especially with textiles work, sometimes there's a preconception that it has to be extremely precise and delicate needlework, and that's the only thing that makes, a really sort of special piece of textile art, that it can be much more accessible. You can work quite quickly to produce something exciting, and also that you don't need to buy really expensive materials. You can use scraps, you can use secondhand fabrics, you can use your local scrap store, or even kind of old clothes, sort of, bits and pieces you find around the house to create something quite amazing.
Awesome. And then finally, I guess, what do you want the public to come away with? Obviously, this is a spot where people are coming to for maybe a day trip or in the school holidays, so people probably wouldn't necessarily know this was here. So what impression do you want them to leave with?
I think the the beauty and biodiversity of the Wandle. I think it's a river that's had quite a difficult year. So there was a diesel spill back in February where about 4,000 litres of diesel was spilled into the Wandle, potentially by a bus garage in Croydon or Thornton Heath. The South East Rivers Trust and the National Trust here at Morden Hall Park are sort of still doing some sort of observation work, trying to ascertain what the kind of long-term effect might be on the Wandle. But also, as an urban river, unfortunately, the Wandle is always going to be susceptible to pollution events just because this is a really built-up area, and along the whole length of the Wandle, there's no sort of let up from industry, from housing, from busy roads, things like that. I think just to really have this idea that although the Wandle is a river at risk, there's a really important thing to protect, which is this really rare and amazing habitat. And that actually we're really lucky because we're in South London, but we can go and view one of the rarest habitats in the world just by looking over the bridge on the other side of that window.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, well, thank you so much. And is this going to be running next year? I mean, what if someone wanted to get involved? Would you run other workshops? Or do other people, other organisations? Yeah,
I would love to run another workshop with the National Trust. Obviously, that's up to them. But hopefully I could run something similar in the future. I do occasionally run a walking and stitching workshop along the River Wandle. So that is really just sort of very quick, almost like sort of like the kind of lightning poses. If you were doing like a life drawing class, you have a sort of 1 minute pose. It's like a sort of lightning pose in a natural landscape along the Wandle. Oh, nice. So sort of 30-minute breaks along quite a short walk to sit and stitch and enjoy the local environment. So yeah, keep an eye on my website and my Instagram for when I'm next running workshops.
Definitely. Yeah, is there anything else you want to kind of promote? Any other bits you've got coming up?
So I think the next sort of big workshop I'm going to be running is going to be All Things Fungi Festival down in West Chiddingly in Sussex. So that's running the 12th to the 14th of September. So I'll be using naturally dyed fabrics from my local area in South London to make some little mushroom patches, some little applique mushroom patches for people to sew onto their jackets. I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
All right, well, we'll definitely be broadcasting from there as well. So I think that's excellent. Yeah, we haven't done enough from their episodes, but thank you so much. This has been amazing, and thank you for bringing this up to young people. It's such an excellent collaboration.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
So we are with two people who work at the National Trust, and you were involved with the workshop last week. So do you want to introduce yourself? Should we go first?
So I'm Isabelle Bryan. I'm the Programming and Partnerships Officer here. And so, I was in with Ellie and the young people for most of the week. So that's very exciting.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm Emma Hutchinson. I'm the Volunteer and Community Manager at Morden Hall Park.
Awesome. So how did you guys get involved with this initiative?
Well, I know Ellie previously. You've come to one of our fun palaces before and helped out. And then one of our colleagues, Nicoletta, who leads on the Green Corridor project, and that's about connecting the Wandle, particularly Pickle Park up by Collier's Wood. She got us back in touch, which was great. And I love Ellie's work, and I follow you on Instagram. So I just thought it was a great opportunity to sort of link young people with what you do and the work that we want to do around the river. And we have the Kiln Room, which is a space that is supposed to be for young people to display their work and co-created exhibitions. So it just seemed like a really great opportunity to bring all those elements together and give young people an opportunity to learn some skills, sewing skills that will hopefully help them with their career, but also connect them back to nature and to the river, and produce a beautiful exhibition for our visitors to enjoy.
Nice. And this is the first time you've done something like this here?
So we've done other projects with other artists. This is the first time we've done it for such a kind of condensed period of time, and first time we've properly connected to the park, I would say, when it's been a group project. We've had individual young people create like more sort of formally written wildlife and history exhibitions, and we've had kind of more casual mixed exhibitions of artwork by younger children and older children. But this is the first time it's been all about getting to know this group of young people over a shorter period, but to create a lot of stuff in one.
Yes, a lot.
Time.
Nice. So I guess what were your expectations kind of coming into it, and then how did those change towards the end? Like, you know, expectations versus reality in a good way. Not kind of a...
Yeah, you always hope that they're going to create something beautiful and be completely enamoured and inspired by the river, and then you always think, but we don't know these young people, they may not be as into it, they might be pushed to come with by their parents or something, and not actually about what they want to do, so there's always that risk that they might not be as engaged as you want them to be. So we were very fortunate that they were getting the kind of idea behind it. I think from the start we took them on a walk around the park, and then we told them all about the history and the wildlife. So yeah, I think it's presenting all that information and then hoping they work with it, which they did as well. It was very good.
I also hope that we would be able to give a space for young people to come together and connect with other young people. I think since the pandemic particularly, young people are quite isolated. They perhaps didn't get the same experiences that I had going to university or college. So I really wanted this to be an opportunity where young people come together, make friends and take it on after the project in their own way. And yeah, I hopefully that has been achieved. They seem to all get on really well. They've shared numbers, and it would be lovely to see them just keep in contact and you know, build their own connections that takes them places.
Yeah, and they didn't all know the river or the park either. So they didn't know each other, they didn't know the site, most of them. So it was lots of growth over.
You can never know if they're going to get on, but they
Yeah.
did. They did get on really well.
Wonderful. And what are your backgrounds? Are you kind of nature-based, or have you worked with young people, or kind of what brought you to this role at the National Trust?
So I am a teacher by a profession. I was a primary school teacher for 8 years, working in Hackney, Lewisham, Tower Hamlets. So really sort of inner city boroughs. And even when I was teaching, I love working with children and young people, but they're always looking for opportunities to take them out of the classroom, to connect them more deeply with nature, which is so hard to do in our curriculum, which is boom, 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 maths, English, and there's so much to fit in. So I left teaching and was looking for an opportunity to work with children and young people, but connecting them with nature. I did a course at Capel Manor, and then very luckily the job as a community ranger came up here, which was perfect for me. It was all about young people, connecting them with green spaces, improving green spaces. So yeah, I did that for 2.5 years, and then moved into my current role.
Amazing.
So I grew up coming to this park.
wow.
So I was a little toddler paddling about in the Wandle when I was very small. So then when I got a bit older as a teenager and doing work experience, I did that here. So I was working with the Ranger team, and then the learning team, as it was called then, so working mainly with the primary age again, but also with some of the older ones. And then as the work's evolved here, I've got a job doing the same kind of stuff. And then we've had the children, young people help develop around that. But I was coming to it, so I did a lot of the teaching of the primary children. And my background was doing the biology and geography side and the nature side, and passing that on with the outdoor education stuff. So 18 years now I've been associated with this place. So it's just kind of why I'm directing me to be involved with this too, because there's kind of like that Wandle connection. With me too.
So in the workshops, kind of day to day, were you kind of bringing some of your knowledge and backgrounds and experiences into that and kind of educating as well?
Yeah, Isabelle was really good at that sort of scientific knowledge that she's built up over 18 years.
So Ellie obviously had planned the topics for the different days. They particularly liked saying Trout Day over and over again, didn't they?
Trout Day was everybody saying.
So obviously brought in
the
that.
evaluation.
They love that.
It's trending.
So obviously we knew what we were all talking about. So they had that one orientation walk on the first day, and then at that point it was just adding little tidbits through the day as they kind of mentioned stuff or asked questions about what the animals looked like, or you see pictures. One of the days we caught some caddisflies out of the river, brought them in as well, so they could see their models to inspire them to make their own much more glitzier version of the caddisflies. It's the educational side, and also that kind of confidence building in the young people, because chatting to them you find out that they've been applying for jobs, haven't got what they're looking for yet, so they just kind of getting to achieve something, get to know new people, get to put it on their CV, their LinkedIn. I think we were on someone's LinkedIn on day one. They're like, right, got the trust logo on there now. It's kind of helping them to make those connections. And I don't think a lot of them had thought about kind of the conservation and the nature side as much as the textile side, because they were coming more from that angle to begin with, and then we're saying by the end, I now want to go out and recognise things in nature and be more inspired by nature and my art. So I think it's crossed that kind of line really nicely, just quite naturally, without us having to feel like we were forcing anything. So,
we were kind of talking about that as one of the outcomes, weren't we? Like, imagine if someone someone's kind of direction of their work completely changed as a result of this week, and they became more kind of environmentally and climate and nature focused. That would be so amazing. More Ellie's.
Yeah, I was really so lucky to have Isabelle with me as well, because you were kind of very gently introducing sort of more kind of scientific concepts. We were sort of talking about the specific names of what the waterweed we were looking at. And I think you brought down a few books about the sort of different types of caddisfly larvae, which was a, kind of revelation for me as well, because I thought it was just the cased and uncased varieties. But actually what I was very unscientifically describing as like different fashions or different styles are actually different species. Yeah, and then just, you're kind of bringing in some of that sort of like soft kind of science education, so the young people didn't feel like, they were being sort of overwhelmed by kind of very like dry information. I think that you helped to make it really accessible and really interesting, but also gave them like scientific kind of the sort of concept behind what we were doing.
Yeah, it was interesting when we were talking about the fish, and we were talking about Ellie had mentioned like the colour transition of the fish. So I was talking about how they're counter shaded, and so whichever view you're looking at the fish from above, you can't see it so well because it blends in with the riverbank, and if you look from underneath, it looks shiny, and then it looks like the sky, and then it helps to protect them. And it was just like mind blown. One of the young people was like, I never realised that. And then they were looking more carefully at how they were putting them together, and you can see the stripes they've done on them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like looking at it artistically and scientifically at the same time, kind of work quite well with the fish and the caddisflies particularly. I think.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So they end up like bringing that into their work and then educate the people who are looking at it
Yes.
about the different colours.
Yeah,
Really
and
cool.
some of them have been really accurate in what they created as well.
Yeah.
So, they took the reference images Ellie had provided, and some of them literally were working to those, weren't they? Yeah.
Amazing. So what was maybe the highlight of the week for both of you? What's your kind of biggest takeaway as well?
For me, it's seeing finished work, and we had a sort of an impromptu opening at the end because we weren't able to sort of have a grand opening. Just the timing, they were sewing to the last minute. But having that all up, and we asked all the staff to come over, and they were so interested, and people just go right up to it and like look at all the details. So for me, it was such a nice thing to see all of it up, and after just a week and a day, basically, they'd achieved so much. So that was very impressive.
And similarly, they'd also been really focused. They were chatting away, but they weren't like jumping about and things the whole time. They were quite calm and quiet a lot of the time. And then when they'd finished, like that relief and like them kind of pointing at their work and doing silly faces and group photos and things, and just saying, oh yeah, they've really bonded. That was a big highlight as well. Like when you could actually see all the work behind them and then see them in front of it when we were taking some final photos. That was really lovely. So.
How did you find working with young people? Was it as you expected, or was there any differences?
I really enjoyed it. I knew it was going to be quite a learning curve for me because I hadn't done such a sustained period of teaching. When I've done workshops in the past, they've been much more sort of drop-in, so people kind of come and go over a period of sort of 4 hours or something. And some people stay for a while and might chat, but most people, they're taking part in a workshop as part of maybe a sort of like bigger day out, like sort of at a festival or something. So so it was really nice to kind of just sort of listen to some of their conversations and just maybe get an idea of kind of where they're at in their lives, so that you can kind of support them as well. I think like a couple of them were maybe sort of doing like textile sort of GCSE and A level, and were kind of struggling with like the technical aspects. But actually to look at the work that they produced this week, they produced some amazing, like really kind of free, creative, expressive work. So I think sometimes it's maybe the sort of elements of like sort of educational curriculum, as you were saying earlier, that sort of don't fit everybody. So to give someone a chance like this, like for a young person who said, oh, I'm doing textiles GCSE, but I'm not any good at it, to kind of give them a chance to be part of an exhibition, to show that actually they are good at it. They really do have, creative, expressive kind of genes in their being. So that was really wonderful. I feel like I learned a lot from them as well. Just sort of, the things that they wanted to do were much more sort of ambitious than I think what I thought they were going to want to do. I gave them fairly straightforward samples to work from, and they all just really took it in their own direction. No one was happy to just do the bare minimum. Everyone really wanted to kind of push it to the next level. So
you can definitely see that in their work.
I was really delighted by that. I thought it was wonderful. I think the hardest thing was getting them to stop at the end when they had to go and put the work up. I sort of say, well, we have to finish off the backs of the embroidery hoops and we have to get the work up on the wall, and they were still walking into the kiln room and still sewing things on.
Countdown time.
So that was an instruction, not an invitation. Come on. It's like, I mean it, we've got to move on now.
Yeah, you also don't want to be a stern teacher because they've come here on their summer holidays to do it for fun. So you want it to be an enjoyable experience for them, but you also want to have like a lovely exhibition up at the end of it as well. So it's kind of balancing those two things, like letting them have enough sewing time, but also kind of we have to get an exhibition up at the end of it.
Have any of them come back and brought their families or friends?
It's only been up a few days, so we're hopeful that they will be. I don't know if they'll announce themselves necessarily.
No. And we're hoping to have like a little video up to show the process as well. So
that was my other big job. I was the photographer.
Oh, okay.
So trying not to be an intrusive photographer because they didn't drop a stitch while I was zooming in.
How long's it going to be up for then?
Till the 3rd of November.
Wow, that's
so I'll have a nice long run. So hopefully they'll all find time to bring friends and relatives with them as well.
And then they can take their pieces home after that as well.
It's in time for Christmas.
And we were thinking if we have their permission, we could actually scan them in as well, so that they could be used visually again in video to show ideas of what we've done in the past and things like that too, if they're happy with that, so they can kind of live on a little bit in their own place and.
Yeah, and a part of our archive as well, because it is now a part of the history of Morden Hall Park. We are a children and young people hub, so we want to keep collecting all the work that we've done and saving it so future generations can have a look at it as well.
And do other National Trust locations, can they be inspired to run similar workshops, you think?
We hope so, yeah. We would love to, so we'll share it widely within the National Trust and encourage our colleagues to come and have a look, because it is really inspirational that these 8 young people in a week put together this wonderful exhibition with Ellie's help and with Isabelle's help. So it is nice if other places can see it and think we can do similar, or it doesn't have to be exactly the same. And we are obviously a nature-based place, but how you connect young people with heritage in their own way. I think for us, we explore different ways of connecting young people to nature, and that might be through family activities, it might be through sewing, it might be through fishing, it might be through volunteering. So you've got to find a way that's relevant to the young person to connect. So for these young people, it was textiles. But for someone else, it might be something different.
It'd be nice to get loads more visitors down here as well, because I feel like so few people know about Morden Hall Park and this kind of area in general. People barely know where Collier's Wood is, let alone Morden Hall Park. So.
Especially the kiln room, it is a little tucked away.
Yes, it's the other reason I'm involved, because I kind of look after that little space, because it's sort of a little bit more manageable than our bigger space, and it means that you can say to a group of children, young people, there's enough kind of time to create something that will fill the space. And there will be little additional extra bits that go into that space as well to complement what's already in there. Rather than going, here's this massive gallery space and you've got to fill all of this, and it makes a greater impact in there as well, I think. Their work, and you can get so close to it as well.
And it's free, right? It's free to, Donations always welcome, actually.
Buy an ice cream.
It's good ice cream. And how else could you do you want to promote any of your kind of channels or your work? So does Morden Hall Park have an Instagram page? Or?
Yes, we've got Instagram. Facebook's really popular. Our Facebook one, we have a website, so all our events and things are listed on there, and this opportunity was on there, so we do something similar. People can find similar stuff on there.
And newsletters, people can sign up presumably.
So there's National Trust newsletters, which sometimes focus on stuff that's happening regionally, but usually the best thing is to go on the website for Morden Hall Park specific stuff, because we don't have a local newsletter, so it's usually better to look on there, and that's the closest we get really to a local newsletter, isn't it?
Wonderful. Well, I hope lots of people come and see the exhibition. It's wonderful, and we will be promoting it obviously on this channel and through other channels as well. So thank you so much.
No, thank
lovely
you.
to meet you.
Thank you.
Come and enjoy, because life's too short, really and truly.
And London, wow, what an amazing city.
So, greener,
healthier,
and wilder.